Poppy Playtime started an ARG last week that reveals to us tons of new information while also still bringing up a lot of questions as to what Chapter 3 in the newly announced Project Playtime game will contain. So in my last update video, Playtime Co themselves sent me and a few different content creators a letter, and if you missed that video, feel free to read the paper here for some context. But to recap, all you really need to know is that in the middle of this letter, we are told to access the computer, and below are given a real-life IP address that starts what I'm calling the Poppy Playtime ARG. And the same IP address was also revealed in the promotional image announcing Project Playtime as well. So this was some amazing information to get because it meant that new info was coming, and all we needed to do was figure out what in the world this IP address was actually for. And this is where the theorizing starts to begin. The first theory that started to surface was by far the craziest one, and it suggested that the IP address was a secret location we needed to visit in real life, because IP addresses, if you didn't know, actually link to real world locations. And as I mentioned in my first video, this IP address actually reveals a location in New Jersey. And while IP addresses are generally pretty broad locations, people even pointed out that the location was near a graveyard. So naturally, people began to predict that for whatever reason, we had to go to this grave site to begin the ARG. And of course, this would immediately have to be proven false by the developers, as they released a statement reading, "Hey guys, there's something important we want to share with you all regarding the secrets of Project Playtime. We've seen some theories about the hidden numbers leading to a cemetery, and we wanted to let you know that ain't it. This is all taking place online. Do not dig up graves or trespass on private property. That is super illegal. We want to make this a fun experience for all you guys and don't want to see anyone get in trouble." So that put all those theories to rest. But if it can't be a real world location, then what in the world was this IP address actually for? Well, the IP we currently have reads 159.223.1356. However, if you mix and match these numbers up a bit into the combination specifically of 159.135.6223 and put them inside of your browser, it would actually lead to some sort of website that upon opening just read, "Please come back later." Not really giving us much more of a lead. However, it definitely gave us a lot of hope, and for whatever reason, we will apparently end up needing this site later. But the next big discovery would be when a user in the Poppy Playtime Discord would say that they had apparently discovered that the IP address was actually what is called an FTP server, which, if you didn't know, is basically just a way of sending information from one computer to the next. In fact, the user would say the server had a folder named /Project Playtime, proving that this FTP server was real. And while of course this user could just be some random person on the internet spreading misinformation, there is actually some proof behind these claims, with one of the developers even confirming that they were on the right track. And in fact, if you use the software to access this FTP server, it actually does connect. However, there's a problem, because the server requires both a username and a password to connect to. So now the new question became, what in the world was the username and password to the server? Well, there's actually a few different theories that people have tried throughout the many days this ARG has been active. Theory number one is the Rowan Stoll theory. Rowan Stoll is some sort of character or something that we basically know nothing about right now. However, if we look at the letter I was originally sent, behind all this red text wrote over this paper, we can see what appears to be some sort of potential name, that of which being Rowan Stoll. And whoever this character, if it even is a character at all, is, must have been an employee of Playtime Co, since this letter is written over a confidentiality agreement for employees in the in-game factory. And people theorize that some sort of combination of Rowan Stoll could have been the answer to the username and password. But it wouldn't take long for this theory to be cut out due to a severe lack of evidence, as for the most part people were really just guessing. The second theory, however, starts to actually bring up some real questions, and it's the Stella Greyber theory. So if you guys didn't know, Stella Greyber is a character who was revealed in Chapter 1 through VHS tapes, and throughout the game she has some really weird dialogue suggesting she might be important in some way. However, ever since Chapter 1, we haven't heard anything about her since. At least until now. Because what's super important to note is that in the promotional image first revealing this IP address, there was also this really weird star shape directly under it. Now, this star shape is something that I've theorized about a million times because it actually showed up once before in an entirely separate Poppy Playtime teaser for their 1-year anniversary. However, what's super interesting is that the name Stella happens to also be Latin for the word star. And as an added bonus, the last name Greyber also is a German name referencing digging and burying, like what we are told happened to all the evidence inside of the letter. And while it might be a stretch to some people to be translating different words from Latin to English, this is something that Poppy Playtime has actually done before. In the same teaser that showed the original star image I talked about before, we are shown even more Latin writing that translates to not what you expect. So on multiple occasions now, mob games have deliberately used Latin writing to try and tell us things inside of the game. And with this, people theorize that Stella Greyber has some sort of large presence in this brand new ARG, but what could that exactly be? Well, like I said, the paper that this letter is written over is actually an employee confidentiality agreement, essentially proving to us that whoever wrote on this letter was somebody who was originally an employee at the factory. And we also know they're an employee because throughout the letter, they make it clear that they know about the experiments going on in the factory, but also can't tell anybody because they are constantly being surveilled, which is why they wrote a letter. And this would make a lot of sense assuming the writer of the letter is an employee, more specifically for this theory, Stella. So there's a decent amount of evidence that Stella Greyber is in some way related to this letter. And while we don't know for sure if this theory is true, assuming it is, the person this letter was sent to was probably Stella's mother. But with all this being said, where do we get a username and password out of this? Well, that's sort of the continual problem we've run into here. We don't. After hours of typing in different usernames and passwords relating to Stella, we came up with absolutely nothing. And an entire week after the ARG started, not a single person was able to get into the server once. So does that mean this ARG is impossible? Well, honestly, we don't really know for sure right now, but clearly there's a piece missing from the puzzle that we don't have yet, whether it be because we haven't been looking hard enough or because the developers haven't given us everything we need to solve it. But I have a theory about what could be going on here. So the star shape I showed you guys earlier clearly has some sort of relation to this ARG, or at least the brand new game that's coming out here in a month. However, before this reveal on Halloween, we had done some digging to figure out the star shape actually matches this random Jack-in-the-Box toy hiding behind Huggy Wuggy in the 1-year anniversary post video for no reason, along with a couple non-canon renders made for Mob Games' personal animation channel. So clearly, whoever this is, they have some sort of greater purpose for the game's future, but what could it be? Well, as I've guessed in previous videos, I think this new character is going to be the Chapter 3 main antagonist in some way. And in fact, based on the character's weird relationship with Huggy Wuggy throughout its teasers, it's even theorized that it could be telling us that Huggy Wuggy is coming back in the future. But the thing is, that's all stuff I'm theorizing about for Chapter 3, which doesn't come out all the way until 2023, while this new Project Playtime game is coming out literally in like a month. So my theory is that the developers are intentionally trying to bait theories in with all these teasers, giving us little bits and pieces of information just enough to keep us interested until they drop their next big game this December on us that we will have to play to hopefully find out the rest of the answers for this ARG. And if we are lucky, this new game could even contain the secrets that we are looking for to finally solve the username and password to access this server and discover a bunch of hidden information about Chapter 3, including us learning about this new Jack-in-the-Box character that they have been waving in front of our faces this entire time with no real motive as to who it actually is. See, what I think is that Mob Games is trying to keep us interested throughout the next few months while they work on the 3rd chapter, while also not revealing too much. So clearly this co-op game they are dropping for the holiday season naturally is going to give all of us hungry theorists something to chew on while we wait for the main Chapter 3 that we have been truly waiting for. But while we're waiting, we are being given this little puzzle that may not be solvable now, but it makes us hungry for more lore that we should hopefully find out when the game finally releases. And if you don't believe me, the ARG has been out for over a week at this point and it still hasn't been found out. If we're being honest, if there really was a way to solve this, people would know by now. And so to me at least, it seems pretty clear that we are entirely missing something that's intentionally being withheld by the developers. And I think the final pieces of this ARG are being hidden to promote their brand new game where we will finally get all of our answers. Anyway, let me know your theories in the comments and maybe we can try and bust the username and password early. I don't know, subscribe and peace.